Dr. Dilip is a senior registrar in the Department of Critical Care Medicine, Apollo Hospital, Bhubaneswar. He did his MBBS and MD in Forensic Medicine and Toxicology from MKCG Medical College, Berhampur. He did his postgraduate diploma in Analytical Toxicology from Annamalai University, Tamil Nadu. He did his postdoctoral fellowship in Clinical Toxicology from the MGR Medical University, Tamil Nadu. He did his postgraduate diploma in emergency medicine from George Washington University, USA, and his fellowship in critical care medicine from MGR University, Tamil Nadu. We welcome you, sir, for the talk.
Seniors and juniors. The theme is standard operating protocols for common poison, and my topic is on phosphorus and zinc. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. So phosphorus belongs to the irritant group of poison, and as we know, it consists of mainly elemental phosphorus, including white and red phosphorus, and it causes mainly poisoning, acute poisoning, chemical burn, and chronic poisoning. Next, sir. Next. The mechanism of action. Metallic phosphide reacts with water or gastric acid to produce phosphate, and the phosphorus reacts with air to produce oxides, and they react with water to produce phosphoric acid. Next slide, please. Next slide. The mechanism of toxicity of phosphine particular. It inhibits mitochondrial cytochrome C oxidase, thereby inhibiting cellular respiration, which clinically manifests as tissue hypoxia and resultant metabolic death. It causes generation of highly reactive free radicals that result in widespread damage to cellular membranes, leading to cell death and organ death. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And as it is presented as the clinical features depend on the amount, dose, and time interval between the ingestion and delivery. Classically, acute poisoning is described as occurring in 3 different stages. And in practice, actually, these stages are not so well defined due to overlapping. Stage 1 mainly consists of mild symptoms. Stage 2 shows transient resolution of toxic effects, but almost always overlapping with other stages. Stage 3 really shows very severe symptoms. Next slide, please. Next. Severe effects. We really get shock and refractory hypotension at the presenting features. ECG changes mainly show T-wave and ST segment changes, QT prolongation, and dysrhythmias. Hepatic injury manifests as hepatomegaly, jaundice, coagulopathy. CNS symptoms manifest as delirium, stupor, and coma. If this occurs, implies the severity after the secondary. The metabolic acidosis occurs due to inhibition of the Krebs cycle, hypotension resulting in lactate accumulation. Hypoglycemia or impaired regulation of blood glucose is due to alteration in energy production. Electrolyte changes, particularly hyperphosphatemia and hypocalcemia occurs. Renal toxicity occurs, leading to renal damage. It also causes local tissue injuries in skin and mucus. Next, please. Next. Investigations. Common in routine investigation to be done at the emergency department and to be done frequently depending on the clinical condition of the patient, and others to be done whenever indicated. Next slide, please. Next. Next slide. Diagnosis is mainly clinical. High suspicion and history of ingestion is important. The classic triad of hypotension, severe metabolic acidosis, and cardiac arrhythmias. Please the diagnosis. And this garlic odor and faint fumes from schools is practically almost difficult to appreciate. Silver nitrate test is a valuable bedside test, and gas chromatography and GCMS are there for confirmatory tests. Next slide, please. Next. Treatment. Particularly the health staffs should use universal precautions. Normally, we remove the victim of poisoning from the source of exposure instantly. Supportive care should be given, and as there are no specific antidotes, management is primarily based on monitoring, intensive monitoring, and supportive care. Next slide, please. Initial stabilization is mainly ABC, airway, breathing, and circulation. Decontamination should be done by topical decontamination by body surface and eyes with water, copious amount of water. Then activated charcoal may reduce GI absorption if the patient arrives within 1 hour. If more than 1 hour, it has a limited rate. Gastric decontamination done within 1 to 2 hours of ingestion, and it should be done with vegetable oils like coconut oil, we used to use, and liquid paraffin. Inhibit phosphine release from the ingested phosphate. Then next please. Next. CVS manifestation. Particularly shock management, we need IV fluids and vasopressors. But we should frequently monitor the IVC. So accordingly, we can plan the fluid adjustment or delivering fluid. Then vasopressors, we should use noradrenaline, particularly dopamine and dobutamine are not working. Dysarrhythmias treated according to the standard ACLS protocols. Digoxin has been beneficial effects on this myocardial contractility and blood pressure. Magnesium sulfate also acts as a cell membrane stabilization factor and possibly reduces the incidence of fatal dyslipidemia. It has antioxidant effects and combats free radicals due to phosphate. Hyperinsulinemia plus hyperinsulinemia, euglycemia, potassium treatment is considered. Normally, 100 ml of 25% dextrose, 8 units of regular insulin, plus 10 milliequivalent of KCl should be given because insulin promotes energy production from carbohydrate, restores calcium flux, improves myocardial contractility. IABP is extremely useful. When the patient starts lactate accumulation in patient starts, it is better advised to think of IABP. ECMO is useful but costly. Next slide, please. ARDS managed by mechanical ventilation. Hypoglycemia, hypokalemia are also managed convenously. Metabolic acidosis, particularly use sodium bicarbonate to keep the bicarbonate around 18 to 20. Hemodialysis may be done in refractory cases. N-acetylcysteine is beneficial, and we should start around 130 mg per kg for 45 to 1 hour, then onward 70 mg per kg for next 3 days. As phosphine inhibits acetylcholinesterase, pralidoxime may have a role in the management, but further studies are recommended, and it is not currently recommended. Then the protocol, please. Next slide. Next. This is particularly phosphorus poisoning, not aluminum phosphide. This is phosphorus poisoning. Particularly, we take the history, then ABC stabilization. We should look after ABC stabilization. Then we should go for gastric lavage with coconut oil and multi-drug activated charcoal. Repeat ABG, lactate levels, and LFT frequently. If metabolic acidosis is there, we should go for sodium-bicarb to maintain between 18 to 20. Or there we can go for CVVH or CRRT. If there are increased lactate levels and poor heart function, we can go for glucose, insulin, and potassium. We can go opt for digoxin, but we used to better it. We should go for IABP also. If ECMO is there, but ARDS we can manage conservatively. If LFT is deranged, we can go for NSC, non-acetylcysteine, as early as possible within 12 hours. Plasmapheresis seems to be of help in many cases. Liver transplant, if required. Then, if electrolytes is deranged, then we can go for electrolyte replacement. And if hypoglycemia also occurs, we can manage it further. So these are the main consequences of phosphorus spike, which can be handled. Okay. Then coming to the prognosis. Next. Next. Prognosis. Poor prognostic factors are high aperture score, high SAP score, shock, decreased level of consciousness, lack of vomiting after ingestion, acidemia, ARDS, hypoglycemia, uremia, early hepatic injury, ECG abnormalities. So these are the poor prognostic factors. So depending on the factors written here, we can arrange or we can estimate the prognosis. Okay. Next please. Next. Next please. Common errors. The common errors are that not considering the diagnosis seriously, but it requires high degree of suspicion and history of poisoning should be ascertained. Relying on unusual signs such as garlic odor, smoking stools, as these signs may not be present. Failing to monitor a patient with phosphorus ingestion after apparent initial improvement that may deteriorate and go for inorganic toxicity for next. In phosphorus burns, it causes chemical burns on contact with skin. Phosphorus particles embedded in a wound produce corrosive phosphoric acid and lead to ongoing tissue injury even after the initial exposure has ended. These three mechanisms, particularly exothermic reaction producing the phosphoric acid and the acid itself and the dehydrating factors, contribute to the tissue injury observed. Next. Particles of phosphorus visualized directly by the wood lamp. Management is decontamination. Remove the phosphorus particles from the ulcer. Careful debridement of the necrosed tissues and proper wound care is the mainstay of the treatment. Then chronic phosphorus poisoning. Next. 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 It occurs due to long-term occupational exposure to fumes of phosphorus, and this condition is referred as procedure. Presented as toothache in a caries tooth. After extraction, the jawbone is exposed, leading to necrosis, sequestration, and osteomatosis of the lower treatment. Avoid the source of exposure. Dental treatment. But due to strict laws of manufacturing and using of phosphorus, it is almost absent. Next. Next. Then zinc phosphide. Coming to the zinc phosphide part. Zinc phosphide is a rodenticide, an irritant poison, and slow acting but highly toxic. Next slide. Next slide. Physicochemical properties. It is available as highly concentrated paste. It has a typical decayed fish or garlic odor, have a high molecular weight. Toxicokinetics. can be, next, please. Next. It can be observed into the body by oral ingestion, inhalation, and through damaged skin. Metabolism of zinc phosphate can occur by reduction reaction to phosphine gas or and oxidation reaction to phosphorus oxidation. Zinc phosphate excretes in urine as hypophosphate or dissolved phosphate. The presence of strong reducing substance in urine is a common feature of poisoning with zinc phosphate. Toxicodynamics. The overall toxicity of zinc phosphate is due to both zinc and phosphine gas. So zinc is also important. Next page and next slide. The fatal dose is 4 grams and fatal period is 1 to 3 days, depending on the amount of poison ingestion. Following ingestion, both zinc phosphate and phosphine are absorbed from GI, but majority of effects produced by the phosphate. Zinc phosphate causes damage to liver and kidney mainly. Phosphine causes CNS depression, irritation of lungs, damage to liver, kidney, heart, and skin. Death also occurs as a result of cardiac arrest, pulmonary edema, kidney death. Next slide. Next slide. There is a publication depicting cardiotoxicity in acute zinc phosphate poisoning. Next, please. Next. Publication from depicting cardiotoxicity in acute zinc phosphate. And this is a very particular case report highlighting sudden cardiac arrest in an asymptomatic. So, in asymptomatic patients are also may die of sudden cardiac arrest of zinc phosphate poisoning. Then investigation. There's common routine investigations to be done frequently to assess the clinical condition of the patient. Special investigations done whenever indicated. Next, diagnosis is mainly clinical. High suspicion and history is important. Gas chromatography and DCMS are there for confirming the poison. Next slide. Next slide. It is a publication from Hyderabad, India, highlighting zinc as a marker in viscera of suspected zinc phosphate poisoning by NAA method, by neutron activation analysis. Treatment. Coming to treatment. Next slide. There is no specific antidote. Next slide. There is no specific antidote. History of ingestion is important. History of ingestion is important. Treatment is symptomatic and supportive. Vomiting is induced as soon as possible. Gastric lavage to be done with vegetable oil, like we do by coconut oil. Activated charcoal should be instituted, should be given at the rate of 1 gram per kg. Okay. Repeat LFT, coagulation profile, ABG, and electrolytes frequently. AIMS acetyl infusion should be started within 12 hours of ingestion. In empty stomach, metabolic acidosis, particularly plasmapheresis, could be done if ingested in large amounts in empty stomach. Metabolic acidosis occurs within 24 hours. Raised SGOT or raising SGOT and SGPT levels, elevated iron, FFP and blood, and vitamin K is required for coagulopathy. Liver transplantation is necessary in irreversible liver failure. Next slide. Next slide. This is a case report from Turkey highlighting successful management of zinc phosphide by virgin olive oil. This olive oil is used for gastric lavage. Okay. Next. Then this is a paper from Egypt. There's a paper from China, India depicting plasma exchange in yellow phosphorus. Okay. Then another paper is there from plasma exchange approach in this zinc phosphate toxicity. And this is another paper from Egypt highlighting successful treatment of zinc phosphate poisoning with tranexamitis, which is a fibrinolytic acid, which is also used for zinc phosphate. And this is the management protocol for zinc phosphate. We should be confirm of the history. Then ABC gastric lavage with coconut oil and multiple drug activated charcoal should be given. Then N-acetyl system should be started as early as possible. Okay. Then repeat the LFT as frequently. Then depending on the normalcy or increased amount of NSE or N-acetyl system, on the level of LFT, particularly SGOT and SGPT level, we can go for plasma test. Okay. And the LFT and coagulation profile should be repeated as frequently as possible. Liver function, if there is decreased sodium, hypotension, and coagulation abnormality, we can go for it. This can be managed by fresh frozen plasma and vitamin K. If this is not responding to this treatment and the liver function is deteriorating, we can plan for liver.
Thank you, Deepika sir.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The session is open for questions. Please just wait for a minute.
Yes.
Yeah, no questions. Thanks a lot, sir. It was a really interesting presentation, sir. We thank all the experts who shared their knowledge with us today. I'll leave it to Lisa for the closing comments for the day.
Thank you all very much for participating in the sessions today. We will continue with the very interesting sessions tomorrow on methanol and all kinds of envenomations, aside from snake bite, that is, marine envenomations and bites and stings other than snake bite. Those are very interesting and unusual kinds of presentations in toxicology. So we would like you all to be there tomorrow also. And of course, don't forget the panel discussion on medico-legal issues in poisoning. I expect a lot of questions there, a lot of discussion there, and we will arrive at certain decisions with regard to these tricky medico-legal issues in poisoning. And at the end of the conference, we would like to bring out a small manuscript which will contain all the management protocols after revision and after scrutiny by other experts. We will have it as a soft copy which will be circulated widely, and we'll also plan on printing these protocols. Of course, we will have a separate kind of manuscript on medico-legal issues also, which will be brought out as a soft as well as hard copy. So thank you very much.